Excited today. We are live and we have another incredible guest for our show Meta Talks, which is powered by IBH Media. I'm so excited to have Jesse here and welcome Kate as well. How are you, Kate?
Very excited. It's Friday morning, and so I can't wait to hear all this good stuff about retail and design, and I'm very excited to hear about it.
I know, me too. I've heard a lot of great things about Jesse. So Jesse Rademacher, I practiced that just to make sure. Is from Medium and then Young Sneaks, and he has been in design for multiple decades, and we're really excited to have him here talking through what he's been working on secretively in the background for many years. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, really a great honor to be here and super excited to have this conversation. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so why don't you give us a quick background, like a quick 30-second background, and then Kate's going to kick it off with some questions.
On me personally,
Yeah,
or
you
yeah, on
personally.
me personally. Yeah, so I've been in the design industry for almost 20 years. I was an industrial designer, product designer. I got into footwear. I started in footwear in the skate, like independent skate culture, skate brands. And then spent a decade at Adidas, kind of growing and building the Adidas skateboarding authentically, built and designed and developed and really built the whole program for the snowboard program. And then also Adidas basketball. I was there as design director for about 4 years. And so I was design director of footwear and innovation. So you can see where bringing innovation to life is really what I focus on. It's been my career. It's been my livelihood. And unfortunately, a lot of my friends and other creatives in the industry feel the pain points of working, uh, expressing themselves as a creative in the world, only working in a Web2 corporate environment. And so Medium is co-founded by myself and my brother, who Sean Rademacher is also the he's a designer himself with about 20 years. So the two of us have about 40 years of design experience, all the way from concept to launching things in market. And now we've taken all that ability, we've kind of accrued some of the world's best designers, and there's no bosses, and it's a peer-to-peer industry. It's all through distributed mindsets. So yeah, you asked me in kind of the setup. Medium is kind of the infrastructure that we built for the community. We want it to be the public option to all the Web2 privatized, centralized models. And so that's what we're like dead focused on, is we've been building that infrastructure for about 3 years secretively. And Young Sneaks is the first like decentralized brand that's being placed on top of all that amazing infrastructure that we've built.
I'm kind of curious, why are you guys building this community secretly? What's the reason behind the reason?
The reason, yeah, so there's very good reasons. So we're very strategic. A lot of what we do, we don't do anything without having a really kind of solid understanding of strategy and what we're doing over a multi-year span. So I think that this is kind of where everybody in the space has FOMO, and everybody is like rushing to get in. And I mean, businesses and individuals and everybody is like, what is this new space, and how can I make a living, or how can we uh, adjust our business model? That's just not us. That's not the world that we come from. We are designers. We are not salespeople. We are not the business people that are just looking to exploit profits in any given area. We are the people that do it for all those brands behind the scenes. So, in my career, I worked on like the stuff that was brought to market would usually be brought to market over the project lifespan was like 18 to 24 months for a normal like inline shoe with Kanye or Pharrell or James Harden, or these people from my past. Um, and it takes forever, and there's a lot of overhead, and it's a really inefficient business. And the creatives never get a pure vision all the way to the end consumer. So we spent 3 years building, quite frankly, we're designers. So we asked 300 of our creative colleagues why, I mean, the truth is we asked them what percentage of your creative ability is utilized in your day job. And over 300 creatives, no matter where they worked, they all came back to us and said less than 20%, less than 20%, less than 20, less than 20, less than 20. And we're like, wow, there's like 80% of creative potential from these professionals that know how to do it, how to bring it to market, but there's no mechanism, right? There's no way for them. And so we started building this in 2019. So to answer your question, we started building this pre-COVID, right? And this was before anybody else really even knew what a DAO was or what an NFT even was. Most people don't know what an NFT was 3 years ago, right? In terms of the general public. And so we've been building an infrastructure that looks a lot different than what most people know right now of like the NFT industry. We have been building and building and building infrastructure. So when you're doing that, when I worked on an inline calendar that was usually 2 years out from market, but when I worked on an innovation calendar, it was 3 to 5 years out from market. So we're really used to working on building the infrastructure for whole new opportunities, whole new businesses, whole new economic exchanges. And so once you kind of start diving into what Medium is, think it looks like any solution that those creative peers of ours told us what they would fix about the creative industry. And it looks like ownership over my IP, not having to repeat the same legal documents as every other creative, workspaces to come together and split up profits and then launch projects into a multi-chain, public owned, marketplace, right? So it looks more like LooksRare than it does OpenSea because we have not taken on any capital to date, which means we do not have a fiduciary responsibility to anybody in the world other than, and that's the purity of concept. It's been hard, it's been tough. There was money on the table, and we just weren't ready to sacrifice the leverage that the community has when the community can be independent. And so
Yes,
Young
that's right.
Sneaks is really the first launch. It's our first cap raise in over 3 years is launching Young Sneaks NFTs in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, that's my question to you is, what are some of the challenges running a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, which a lot of some of the viewers probably have heard of it. When you're creating a community of creatives and launching a business, what are some of the challenges? You mentioned some funding, but what are some other challenges? How you navigate different creatives to run a DAO and running a successful business? That's yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. So let me start. So my audience is designers. So my audience, I do need to explain some basics. So you referenced a term. So we call Medium the first design DAO. Medium right now, for everybody, we have a progressive decentralization model. So right now, we're a legal entity based in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, where Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. This is where my life is, and we have a roadmap to becoming a legally recognized DAO. But we don't want to move to Wyoming first. We're slow playing some of the bureaucratic things that we just have to play within. So our advice to everybody: a DAO is a decentralized, autonomous organization. Decentralized means it's for the people by the people. It's community driven. Autonomous means like you're using just all these amazing tools of web3, smart contracts, blockchains, NFT, right? These new mechanisms. And organization is just how all these people, it's like instead of an entity, a for-profit entity, the organization just works on behalf of the community. So a DAO to us is really like a digital co-op.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that easy. I mean, you could call some people, like in the financial world, you could call it a credit union. We're the owners of you call it a company, but it's really, I have a hard time calling it a company. I have an easier time calling it a community, because guess what? Communities can monetize anything they want, right?
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's being organized by communities rather than by an entity that has a legal and fiduciary responsibility to only making more profits for their shareholders. And whatever other values people have, it doesn't matter as long as the financial value is going up. So that's where we're really, we think that when you're starting a company as a DAO, first of all, we really believe in having a sharp point of view. So don't make it a DAO right away. Okay, so this is what people get confused on. Some DAOs are really easy to make right away, and that's what we call a financial capital DAO. It's a shared bank account. It's just people contributing funds to go buy something, and they're amongst the group, they're going to determine what it is they buy. But it's just a pooling of financial resources. Medium is what we call a human capital DAO. People are not pooling financial resources in our DAO. They're pooling human resources and their own abilities, and they're getting access to each other first and foremost. And guess what? There's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of cool projects. And if those projects need funding and money, we can build teams. Usually, oftentimes we don't even need upfront money. If this is a community of people that can execute these visions by doing their own design work and working maybe with a coder and profit sharing, or working with a salesperson or market or all these people. So we think that, like, once you kind of get rid of Web 2 structures and you look at Web 3, and everything is peer-to-peer. So everybody is an individual contractor first before they start organizing into projects and groups. And then people can move a lot faster than entities can. And so that's why I say a normal inline calendar for a Nike or an Adidas or an Under Armour is almost 2 years. We're doing stuff like that in 3 months, right? Like there's just all kinds of advantages that you start to get into with DAOs, because usually it's the financial capital can be 10x the for-profit. So the financial capital models are there. As long as you set up your DAO super lean, you pull people in and you give them the profits back for doing all the work. You don't have to take on these people as employees. The entity, the DAO itself, can run with almost zero overhead. There's a couple people, key people to maybe keep it going. But after that, it's the power of these communities creating value, not always products. It could be a service, it could be a community, it could be just value in all these other ways. And then you can splice and dice and monetize all that value in just infinite ways now. Like there are no rules, as long as the communities kind of act in authenticity and transparency and all those things that really set up the future for being kind of more publicly owned.
Hmm. Awesome. Now, I'm curious with Adidas. I know they launched their NFT several months ago. So do you think that was like a 3 years planned? I'm curious.
Do I think or do I know? Those are different questions. Let's see, put it this way, right? Like, I left that business, and 3 years later, I've been talking with them for 2 years about dropping NFTs. Like, they're just like, it's just these entities. I mean, they have embargoes across doing any NFTs until the larger organization can figure out their master plan for the metaverse. And sorry, it takes too long for companies to do this. And who really wants a Facebook owned metaverse? Like, nobody. We want the diversity of, like, individual metaverses that look like creations and experiences coming from the most talented people in the world, not those that are just trying to exploit people entering their domain.
Hmm.
And so I guess I've been an executive in these massive multi-billion-dollar industries, and I've made them, quite frankly, billions and billions of dollars through my team and the projects that we worked on. And we just see Web3 as like like seriously, I cannot find the negative side of a DAO versus a Web2 business. I just can't, because there's just too many solutions in Web3, financial solutions, real estate solutions, manufacturing solutions, media solutions, like peer groups, like legal templates, like there's kind of no reason. And so we're seeing a massive brain drain from all of these companies already, because they tell me, Jesse, like our top talent's leaving. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, and then it's really hard to replace them. I'm like, why? And they go, because in Web3, you can just do it yourself. And I'm going, oh, what a novel concept, right? Like these businesses don't even see how they're seeing the technology change. They're not seeing the mindsets changing when you can give communities over ownership over Twitter. Like, why is Elon Musk talking about buying Twitter? Why don't we just use the decentralized version of Twitter? Like, and we all get paid for using that, and we all own it collectively. Like the mindsets, I think once you get people making profits and dividends off of just platforms they want to contribute to, or communities that are their natural communities, there's no going back to like giving all those profits and all those decisions back over to a centralized entity that just is going to monetize their data and not doing anything for the community in return. So like that's the big shift. That's the big opportunity, not necessarily all the tech and the tools. Sure, it's the mindsets that any Web2 business can literally and fiduciarily and legally cannot decentralize themselves. Like they can't.
Dan, do you have any question?
Yeah, no, I can see the vision around, like you mentioned, everyone. It almost kind of reminds me of like a freelancer, right? Like a bunch of freelancers come together and you can make product because, like you mentioned, it's people using their human resources versus having to go, buy something or do something so they can get things done. At the same time, I can understand why big corporations probably would have a hard time shifting their models because it's what they've been doing. Like you mentioned, it's their shareholders. It's so I think that gives an opportunity though for what would be people that would normally never get a chance to create things, and now gives them the ability, like you mentioned. So is that where is Young Sneaks like the ability for you to now level up the company, level up the DAO? And then where do you see that going?
Yeah, so think that Medium is like the first public option, right? In terms of like versus, I come from the hype industry, right? Fashion, footwear, influencer brands, like all this stuff. So that's the core of like or of Medium, right? Like these are our peers. These are all the people just doing all the design for all the influencers that say I designed this, right? So literally these are the people behind every product you already love. Now they can keep their day job, but like you said, as a designer, if I work at let's give another example, New Balance. If I work at New Balance and I'm a designer, they own any creativity that I do that kind of that falls within their wheelhouse, right? Contractually, like sneakers, maybe some like athletic gear and some accessories, hats, like stuff like that. Me as a designer working in-house under that contractual obligation has an edge to that contract. And then any designer can go do anything else in the world. And so we're just opening up that opportunity for people if they've got a good job or if they've got health insurance, keep it. But you get to build this whole, you called it a freelance career. We call it building your personal brand, right?
Mhm.
Because the whole future looks like personal brands, not corporate brands. And so Young Sneaks is literally the first brand. We call it kind of the first decentralized brand, meaning like decentralized product brand where product is contained. It's not, Bored Ape obviously is a decentralized brand, but then they're partnering with other people. Young Sneaks is self-contained. It doesn't really need to partner with other people other than creative, the actual people that are bringing value in, right? And so Medium is the infrastructure then to go and make these things that we naturally design in 3D, literally go and make them and set up industry infrastructure and supply chains to actually deliver goods and services in a whole new different way. And so Young Sneaks is just the first decentralized brand, to kind of show the power of what all this infrastructure can do. But you can see you're able to build all kinds of other projects on top of this infrastructure. So as innovators, we first are using Young Sneaks to show people how to use this infrastructure. And Young Sneaks itself think of it as a public brand. It's just a collaboration vehicle. So Young Sneaks goes and collaborates and like says, like, Daniel, what's your vision? Right? Let's see if we can help bring it to market without like you having to take care of all the logistics and everything. But it's your product with your name, with your brand. And,
Got it. And then you
we're
sell
just
it.
kind of, we want to, the term in the industry, which we don't like, is white label, right? But just because of white and some sensitivities around trying to change some of the verbiage in the industry. So we call it custom labeling, right? So there's different ways of when you build the infrastructure. The idea isn't for us to build all of our brands on top of this infrastructure. It's meant to give people the opportunity, if you're an influencer, to launch your own brand, or if you have an audience, service your own audience directly. And so that's where everything gets direct, and that's where profit